you have too many of these? I think we all have that overabundance of white and vanilla paper scraps. Am I right? Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I'd like to welcome you to today's Tuesday tip. And yep, today we are going to tackle those paper scraps. I have got a tip to share with you on how we can take these little babies and we're going to create a great little piece of art for our next greeting card. So let's head over to my stamping table and get started. I wasn't joking when I said I have a lot of white and vanilla paper scraps, and this isn't even part of them. These are just the ones I pulled. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a problem with paper scraps, but I came up with an idea the other day how to use these, and I think you're going to like it. Let me show you what we're going to do. So you're going to want to have some paper scraps that are about 5.5 inches long or longer. So you can see I've got some really long pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my really long pieces down to 5.5 inches so they're a little more manageable for me to work with them. And you're going to notice I have all different sizes, all different lengths. It's just a little bit of random going on here, and that's all fine because the way we're going to be using them, we're going to be cutting up many of these anyway. So it's all good that we have a lot of different sizes. All right, I've got them cut down into my 5.5 inch strips. Now we're going to cut them down even more. So I want them to be in between 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 1 inch. It's whatever you want to do. So there's a couple 1/2 inches. I think I'll leave those alone. Here's a 3/4 or a 1 inch. Let's cut it down to 3/4 of an inch. And when we do, it's going to leave us another little, what is that? Oh, maybe about 3/8 of an inch. And that's fine too. There's no right or wrong when we create with these scraps. All right. So just get creative with the sizes that you cut them. And after I get some of these cut, I'll show you what we're going to do with them. Oh, one more tip. If it cuts crooked, don't worry about it. Isn't that great? Nope, it's really not going to matter if it even cuts a little bit crooked because we're going to find a way to use that too. All right, so there are my scraps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a piece of Whisper White cardstock, 4.25 by 5.5. So this is a quarter sheet. Now, if you've ever had a piece of cardstock, maybe you were working on a card, you messed up, and you don't necessarily want to use the other side, well, you know what? We're going to be able to use it with this technique because we'll be covering that up. So this is a great way to even use up cards that you've messed up on. But we all know Stampin' Up! Has magic two-sided paper, so we always try to use the other side. All right, for this technique, I think it works best if you use your multi-purpose glue. So a liquid glue versus trying to use a tape runner. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some glue to the back of this piece of cardstock, and I'm going to start right in the middle. And not straight, we actually want to be crooked. How about that, guys? I actually want you to adhere something crooked. All right, now our next piece, we're going to add our glue, and you're going to go at more of an angle, just like so. It might be straight up and down. Really, it can go kind of all over the place, and there's no right or wrong to which pieces you use. I can put these next to each other, and we just kind of keep going. Very, very random. So let's keep adding our pieces here. I'll go ahead and speed up the video to make some of this go faster. By the way, before I do, you notice I'm not going right to the edge because I am going off of my my initial cardstock here. That's the other reason I have that silicone mat underneath me because I don't want glue all over my table. That would be awful. So let's go ahead. We're going to just keep adhering strips. And there I go. I'm done. So you notice I didn't put any on the ends. There really wasn't a reason to. And that's because we're going to be cutting this down. So I knew the ends were just not that important. You see, I even have some strips left over, which is great because I like to make these little background pieces up in advance and have them ready to go. So if I need a quick card, I can grab one of my scrap made backgrounds and I'm all ready to go to create a card. Now I want to make sure this is dry. So I'm going to give this just a few extra seconds here. I want to make sure my liquid glue is good and dry because next we're going to take our paper trimmer and we're going to trim this down. And I don't want to get glue on that blade. So I want to allow this plenty of time to dry. All right, my glue is all dry, so now it's ready to trim this down. Now remember, I said this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so this is exactly the same size as a card. I did that so I'd have plenty of room to trim it down. The size you trim it down to, of course, is going to be determined on your card. Now, a standard card, of course, is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So the minimum we'd want to cut it down would be 4 by 5 1/4. So let me show you how you're going to do that. Start with that flat edge. Another reason why we didn't want cardstock and strips right up to that edge. Now, I want to only cut off about half or just a hair. So if I take this edge here and cut it at about 4 1/8, I know I can get that from both sides. So we're just going to swipe that through, and there we go. That is trash. I'm going to rotate it around, and now I can cut it down to 4 inches. So now we'll trim off that end. Loving this paper trimmer. There we go. You notice it cuts through that just like butter. It's fabulous. All right, now we need to trim down the sides, and this needs to be 5 1/4. So I could go ahead, because I didn't have anything here on the sides, you could cut off a little bit on each side, or in this case, I'm looking at that, 5 1/4 is just fine. And my focal part of my card is now ready to go. What am I going to do with this, you ask? Well, let me show you the card I created. So here's just a really simple little fun card. I die cut the letters hello from the Playful Alphabet. Super cute. I did that in basic black cardstock. I added just a simple flower and melon mambo, and I used the small blossoms punch, added a few rhinestones, and I've got myself one fabulous card. Now I want to tell you my focal image here. This piece is 3 3/4 by 5. Let me just use the back of this so you can see what it looks like if you put that. This is 4 by 5 1/4. So it's whichever you want. I wanted a little bit more of my Daffodil Delight cardstock to show there. So I did cut that down to the 3 3/4 by 5 just to give it a little extra something. But guys, these are scraps. And we don't waste scraps, right? We love to be able to use those for cards. And so now all of these paper scraps are now going to have a wonderful new home. And this is something that I think I might just sit down, for a little bit of an afternoon and just create some of these and just keep these maybe in my scrap drawer. And that way, when I need something a little bit different, maybe something a little bit more funky, that you can do that. Now, I want to share one other way to use this scrap idea. And that is to just line those up straight up and down. So I didn't go cattywampus with it, and I didn't follow any kind of pattern, and I left my little, maybe about 1/8 of an inch in between each one. That's going to give a little bit cleaner. This has a little bit more of a funky feel to it, but there are 2 different ways that you can take those scraps and create 2 different backgrounds. Now, obviously, you probably have a lot of colored cardstock scraps too. This technique is going to work great with that as well, but I tend to have an overabundance of the Whisper White and the Very Vanilla, and so it was a really fun way to create some backgrounds. And there you go, everybody. We went from this to this. I think I like this a little bit better than this. How about you? Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's tip, and I hope it was helpful to you. If you enjoyed the tip, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I always appreciate that. And if you have not subscribed, take a minute to become a subscriber. I share all kinds of great stamping inspiration here on my channel, and I'd love to have you join in. All right, my friends, that's all for me. Go create something gorgeous with all those scraps today. Make it a fabulous day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.